Hello everyone, and welcome to Strategy. This is the first one of a series of videos explaining strategic management. Today, it's the concept of strategy. What is strategy then? There are many definitions of strategy, and actually not all are the same, which is a good thing. We'll see in subsequent episodes that this is a good thing. But all these definitions essentially speak about choice. Strategy is making decisions of things that will happen in the future, but you're making the decision today. That decision is informed by analysis and by descriptions of the environment and by information that you can have and by number crunching if you want. But at the end of the day, there will come a moment in which you will have to say, this is the decision I'm making, this is the strategy I'm following. So strategy is not perfect, and there's no way to avoid making the decision. The decision will entail risks, of course, because nobody knows what will happen in the future. But in order to become a strategist, you have to learn to make decisions. So strategy is about choice. It's about making the choices that will put you in the best possible position against your competitors. Now, naturally, no one is in the best position possible, except when you start in the best position. And that may depend on you arriving first to an industry that is being developed. For example, in the industry of the internet search engines, Google arrived first, but moved very fast and grew incredibly fast to become the first mover and the dominator in that industry. Now, if you're not the first mover, you need to create barriers so that competitors don't attack you. And how do you do that? Generating a strategy. And what is strategy? It's the choices you make to outcompete your competitors. So, who makes strategies? Typically, strategies are made by firms. And what are firms? Firms are a collection of discrete but interrelated economic activities. What are economic activities? Some examples are selling, buying, manufacturing, producing, and so on. Economic activities in general relate to activities where value is generated, and this value is exchanged between individuals in the economy. Now, firms are an organization of these activities. That's why you will hear interchangeably firm or organization. Organization is just another word for how you configure these activities. Configuration of economic activities is what we're going to see next. A firm's strategy will define then the configuration of these economic activities and how they interrelate. Another way to call this configuration is a business model. Basically, what strategy will define is which activities you do, which activities you don't do, which activities you outsource, and how do you carry out each of the activities. This is what strategy is, looking inside the organization. We will look in a second at what strategy is looking outside the organization. Configuring the activities will mean things like, are we a company that exports our products? Is our market inside the country? Do we manufacture the product or do we outsource this manufacturing elsewhere? Do we carry out the marketing of our products and services or do we outsource somebody to do the marketing for us? Do we compete in which industry or in which industries? With how many products? With which customer are we serving, and hence, which activities do we carry out to serve this customer? Are we keen on customer service? Are we not keen on customer service? And so on. That's what it means, configuration of activities. Now, how do you know if your strategy is working? Well, you may think to yourself, if I'm selling, if I'm having revenue, if the business is moving, then it must be working. But you may be forgetting something. It must work in relation to your competitors. If your competitors are all doing better than you're doing, you run the risk of going out of business. And that's very important. Now, if your strategy is working in a way that you're competing, that you're managing to stay in the market, that's fine. But what happens if your strategy is so good that you outperform everybody else in your industry? Then you're set to have the competitive advantage, which is, in short, like an award for the best performer in an industry. For the purpose of this presentation, the competitive advantage is the best possible result you can have for a strategy that is going to the market and working. Now that we know what a strategy is, we need to know what a business is. This may sound obvious to you, because a business is a word that you hear all the time. But have you ever taken time to define what a business is? Because if you can't define it, I'm not sure you'd be able to manage it. Take a minute to think to yourself what a business is. Now, over the years, I have come up with this definition of a business. It's a very simple definition, but it helps me understand how businesses work. I like to define it as a product in a market. When I say product, I mean product or service. And when I say market, I mean a space where products and services similar to mine can be purchased. Only when you have these two things, you have a business. If you think about it, if you're a famous entrepreneur who comes up with a product that will solve all the problems in the world, is that a business? No, it's not. No, it's not until you find people wanting to buy that product. If there are individuals, and when I say individuals, it could be companies, it could be any unit that can purchase. If you find individuals that are willing to purchase your product, then you have a business. If you look at common programs where the entrepreneurs pitch their product, the typical issue they have is they haven't thought of the market that will sell. So this is the first episode on strategy. Please join us for the next one.